Well, Vancouver is loved for its green spaces and tree-lined neighborhoods, yes, but you might not realize those beautiful trees are much more likely to be male. And it turns out that fact can make your allergies much worse. Our Darius Madavi is here to break down and explain all of this. So first of all, Darius, how does the city's choice of tree affect people's allergies?
Well, to answer that, Tanya, we have to briefly revisit high school biology. Basically, an individual tree can have male parts, female parts, or both. If a single tree has both, we call the species monoecious. This means that every tree can produce both pollen and fruit. This includes many of the most common trees found in Vancouver, like oaks, flowering cherries, and some maples. If a single tree only has either male or female parts, it's dioecious. In urban areas, this might commonly include mulberry trees, ginkgo, or holly trees. I could talk about this for hours, but the important thing is this: only the male parts produce pollen, which is one of the most common allergens. And yet studies have shown that cities, including Vancouver, prefer to plant male over female trees, sometimes overwhelmingly. Why? Well, according to experts, the reason isn't botanical, it's about logistics.
I don't think that there's any concerns among urban foresters about the quality of female trees. It's just that they don't have the resources to go around cleaning up fruits and nuts.
So very practical applications there, sounds like. Now, scientists have warned that climate change is expected to lengthen allergy season. How does that factor in here?
You're right. Climate change is actually really important to this conversation. Not only do some plants, like ragweed for instance, produce more pollen in response to warmer temperatures, but also the pollen seasons of different plants are shifting and, in some cases, growing.
We've been surprised by the finding of pollens earlier than what we expect. For example, ragweed, which is a fall-time allergen, was actually measurable in our environment pretty early on in the summer. So that sort of prediction of pollen seasons getting longer and longer.
Now, unfortunately, there's no cut and dry solution, but there are steps we can take to alleviate the problem.
Generally, planting a diversity of tree species will help ensure that not as much pollen is produced at any one time, because species may be producing pollen at slightly different times.
Now, don't get me wrong, trees are far from the only culprit when it comes to allergens in cities, but whether it's trees or other vegetation, not all species are created equal. For instance, some plants just use a buckshot technique. They produce a ton of pollen and let it fly free to fly straight into your nostrils, while others take a more focused approach.
The pollen from those insect-pollinated plants and trees doesn't travel as far. It also cannot really, the pollen tends to be too big to actually enter our nose and in our airways.
Now, by no means are allergies the only consideration when choosing trees, but since we're talking about 100,000 of them that the city of Vancouver wants to plant, it's one thing they may want to keep in mind.
No doubt fascinating stuff. Thank you so much, Darius.